So, hello everybody, welcome to the session. The official title of the session is Teaching Methodologies and ICT. However, as you can see in the program, there is a variety and all the presentations are really interesting. My name is Butler, and I'm the chair of this session. And the first presenter that we are going to have here is Peter Butler. According to what I know about him, he works in Switzerland. English, and according to the title of his presentation, you can see that he's going to talk about grammar.
Yes.
So the floor is yours.
Not a sexy subject, I think. I'll do my best. Yes. As you can see, I'm going to talk about grammar. First of all, a word about English teachers. I think we're a fairly spoiled bunch, actually. Well, because we get the lion's share of the teaching budget. Yes. And there are jobs almost everywhere, even for the thinnest of us. And well, we're well supplied with all manner of material. Textbooks, there's always a textbook for every specialism. Just a matter of time before we have English for cattle breeders. We're well supplied with dictionaries, both for ourselves and for our students. And, well, I fill our libraries with pedagogical and academic grammars in English. So, what have I got to complain about? I think rather grateful of me. Well, one has to have a good note. There's only so much sort of American-style optimism that I can stomach. This morning's infusion will last me a fair while. But matters are not much like, so I've brought along reinforcement. I guess I'm going to introduce you to somebody who actually has an even bigger gripe than I do, but it's directed at lexicographers. Now, in England, if English looks back on the august tradition of lexicography, stretching from Samuel Johnson to the OED, and English monolingual dictionaries actually set the standard for many dictionaries across the world. So, what's the gripe about? First of all, the author. Whether you've heard of Bob Dixon, he is probably the greatest living scientific linguist. He is the world's greatest authority on Australian Aboriginal languages, and with his Russian wife, Alexandra Baum, he is also an authority on the languages of the Amazon and the South Pacific. But he is a Brit like myself, even though he teaches in Australia. And what he's basically saying is that English language dictionaries are failing us. By that I don't mean just that dictionaries are always accurate. I mean that they're failing us wholesale. That lexicographers simply often don't understand what the job is that they're supposed to be doing. And he starts out with a simple contention, which is that a dictionary should tell you not just sort of what the word means in some sort of general sense, but it should tell you also when to use one word and not another. Because how you use the word in context is also part of its meaning. And he deals with a number of radical shortcomings across the board, so including the Oxford English Dictionary. He says these are the main mistakes that lexicographers are making. If anybody wants to have a look at the book, I've actually got it here. you're not afraid, I actually disinfected it. It was very remarkable, and it would be perhaps less regarded had it been written by somebody of lesser stature. So if you're interested, you'll find it more interesting listening to it. Okay, I mentioned that because I think it's a book that every language teacher should read, especially if you're in the habit of asking your students to use monolingual dictionaries. Of course, the main reason I put it there is the golden pen on which to hang my much more ragged cloak, and to pave the way for my smaller gripe. So I'm going to complain about a particular issue that seems to crop up almost every day in my teaching. So I'm talking not as a scientific linguist, I'm talking as a classroom teacher. My students are continually misusing participial premodifiers. That means they're continually putting, especially past participles, in front of the noun in ways that English will not allow. Here are a few examples of what I get every day of the week. And they are all unacceptable. As you probably realize. As a practical linguist, of course, I know what's happening. The students are simply transferring structures from German straight into English. All these things are perfectly okay in German. Das definierte Problem, das durchgeführte Experiment, die erreichten Resultate oder Ergebnisse. So it's all fine in German, but it doesn't work in English. And these mistakes come so thick and fast, especially when my students are writing things like project descriptions or progress reports or abstracts. I mean, after about 100 of them, I'm starting to get really irritated, right? Feeling throttling somebody, but I'm not quite sure who I should throttle. I'm thinking, why haven't they been told that they can't do this? So while I'm working out who to throttle, I'm also trying to work out what to say to the student involved. So what do I tell the student? I know what I feel like saying is stuff. Past participle now. But of course, I can't say that, can I? Not only because it would be rather rude, but because it's nonsense. English puts the past participle in front of the noun all the time. But we love to do it. We absolutely adore participial premodifiers. And we like them so much that we actually have them for breakfast. So nobody tell me, if I tell my students, don't put the participle in front of the noun, I mean, they'd starve to death. Maybe worse still, have to make them for breakfast. So, what do I do? Well, I'm slightly puzzled by this myself, so I go and rummage through my grammar books, which clutter up my attic. And the amazing thing is, if you look at pedagogical grammars, whether they're monolingual or bilingual, there's not one of them, with one exception, actually addresses the problem in any manner. And the one book I found which does actually at least acknowledge the issue is this book. Just to remind you, of course, it's one of these books that changes colour like a chameleon. The first edition was brown, and there's now a third edition which is some other colour. just make you buy it. And what does this book say? Well, let's have a look. That's all it says. When I look at this, I think, well, what earthly hell is this? What are my students supposed to do with this? So what they're basically saying, yes, there are two kinds of past participle, ones you can put in front of the noun and ones that you can't. For the ones that you can't, they've given 4 examples. Wow. I mean, there are thousands. So what use are these for? And in the first edition, he actually wrote used as an example of a participle you can't put in front of a noun, which is pretty stupid because any car salesman could have told him that that's wrong. Used cars. And then we have the ones which can either be put before or after the noun. But then the list is completely disjointed. Effective, you could put before or after, but alleged you could certainly not put after. Or very rarely you could put that after. And again, it's just the short list. The hiatus here is I just left out present participles. Sake of argument, make things easier. And again, these just isolated examples are not useful. But that's all. So any teacher looking for a pedagogical grammar is not going to get any better than this. So hardly surprising that the students haven't been taught this topic at all. Okay, so if pedagogical grammars fail, you can always go to the Bible. And by the Bible, I mean, you know, you probably know what I mean. It's this thing, the Comprehensive Grammar of the English Language, by Quirk et al., a work that runs over 1,700 pages. So here, of course, we will find an explanation. Well, no. Well, you do find something. Let me just show you what you find. First of all, they point out that when a participle is put in front of the noun, it's rarely the participle of a passive verb. And then he claims the following are exceptional, because the verb is active. A vanished treasure, a retired teacher, and then it has reduced, fallen, increased prices, risen costs in the technical language of economics. Sounds quite impressive until you think about it. If you think about it, I mean, you can see that this is just hogwash. What's exceptional? I mean, this list took me about 30 seconds, and I only stopped because I ran out of space. Actually, I agree that more often than not, the participle is the participle of the passive verb, but you can't say that it's in the active, it's exceptional at all. And then this bit about the technical language of economics, well, this is just bluff, because it works perfectly well, even without the technical language of economics. And we're now talking about a book written by the top 4 grammarians in the country. Then they move on, and they say this. And I say, hallelujah. Finally something I agree with. Yes. it's true. So if you have a verb and you can't put it before the noun, like the arrived immigrant will not do, but if you add an adverb, suddenly it becomes possible. A newly arrived immigrant is fine. You can't talk about a received letter, but a recently received letter is fine. They record this faithfully, but they're still making a big mistake, which is that they don't ask themselves, why? Why? What is it that happens when I add the adverb? Why does it suddenly make it acceptable? They just say it does, but it's hardly the job of a professional grammarian. You'd expect them to think about why. And I think this is a crucial question. I shall come to it later. Then we have this. It's a lot to take in at once, I know. So I've broken it up. Let's take the first sentence, but let's note en passant the permanent reference notion, which is a bit odd. Permanent reference? Does a fried sausage have a degree of permanence? Does a fried sausage have? Well, when it's on my plate, it's not that much. So let's have a look at the first one. Sorry, there's something missing here. Okay, no. So they said the wanted man was last seen in Cambridge. So wanted man is okay because there's a degree of permanence to it. The man goes on being wanted by the police. That's their explanation. Well, my counter-example is quite simple. So welcome to Police Academy 8. I mean, not even the police can be that stupid. So there must be something wrong with the explanation. And then we have this wonderful bit about, oh, and of course, wanted is not a particularly good example, because a wanted, you can't put wanted in front of, for example, outcome. The wanted outcome doesn't, it's not nice. But the main example was this one. And found purse was returned to its owner. And then this long-winded explanation, but a lost purse is acceptable because although a purse is no longer regarded as found after it has been retrieved, the purse will be regarded as lost throughout the period of its disappearance. I mean, even just reading that makes me wonder if they've not lost the plot. Well, yeah. Let's consider that explanation. A hired car is considered to be a hired car until I give it back. But a bought car is not considered to be bought after it's been bought. A demolished house is demolished until what? But a built house is not considered to be built until it's been built, or after it's been built. You can see this is not going to work. And you can try it. I think it's a delayed flight. It's delayed until, what? It stops being delayed. But a flight that's arrived is not considered to have arrived after it's arrived. They seem to suspect that they're on the wrong track, so they say this. Well, yes. And then they double up with another one because, you know, it's a good measure. And they say, well, it's okay if the expression characterizes a type. A muttered reply, a drawn sword. Well, I wonder in what sort of century they're living. But again, I mean, this explanation is just nonsense. Is a demolished house a type of house? Well, they're welcome to buy one and live in it. Is a delayed flight a type of flight? Well, no, not unless you fly Ryanair, which gets its any type of flight you'll get. So, and then again, they say what we've already rubber stamped, and we said this is correct. So if you put an adverb in front of the noun, suddenly everything's okay. And this, to me, is the point where we need to start in thinking about it. So obviously what's happening here, when you add the adverb, you're increasing the semantic weight of the was, of the pre-modifying clause, or the pre-modifying phrase. And that seems to me to be the clue, not this sort of half-baked criteria of permanence, but the semantic weight of what comes before the noun. It's a privileged position in English, and it has to deserve it. And so my contention is, and this is my view as a practicing teacher, not as a professional grammarian, that this will actually explain almost anything you need to explain. A demolished house simply has a semantic salience that a built house does not, right? Because houses are normally built, so we don't need to mention it. The stolen money has a semantic salience which the withdrawn money does not, and so on. A broken promise has a semantic salience which a kept promise does not, because that's what you're supposed to do with promises, keep them. And a lost purse, again, it has a semantic salience. A lost purse is a purse that needs to be found, whereas a found purse is just sort of basically trivial. And say, for example, if you were to say an unwashed car is a car that needs to be washed, whereas a washed car is not something that you need to do anything about. So what I'm arguing is that rather than create some sort of strange notion of permanence, look at the semantic salience of the participle. And that can also even explain, and I'm now coming to the end, why the strange phenomenon that we can say the required result but not the needed result, because required lifts it to a different level. This is the sort of thing you would find in a document, and is therefore somehow official, whereas this is unofficial and therefore, to that extent, also not semantically salient enough. So I think this is the way forward. Would have to be developed pedagogically, but I think it's a better job than the professional grammarians have done. So, sorry, that was a bit longer than initially. I'm happy to take any questions.
Thank you very much. And now we can ask questions if you're interested.
Well, I have more of a comment than a question, because I work for the military and I've encountered some of these similar structures.
Yes.
And they're, in fact, although they're incorrect, they're actually tolerated in NATO documents. For example, we encountered a deteriorated security situation. So I wonder if it isn't for expediency, but it could also be that someone's trying to avoid responsibility or point a finger or something like that. So it's a type of like very passive structure where you don't actually say who obtained, who wants the results or who is responsible.
Yes. I hadn't thought about that. The situation is complicated by the fact that certain words can be used in premodifiers in very special situations. Most of the pedagogical grammar said included was something you don't normally put in front of a noun. which is true, but in trigonometry you do.
Yeah.
You talk about included angles, included sides. In IT you talk about included files. So I wouldn't give that to my engineers anyway. So there are certain phrases which are sort of established, maybe have some kind of official character, which lifts them out of the ordinary.
Yeah.
But the mistake that my students are making is often they're using these participial premodifiers purely negatively, so purely to refer back. The conducted experiment means that experiment, you know, I told you about it. And that English will not tolerate.
I wanted to ask you, because you have probably done a lot of research into this, if you have ever come across an example that would not really confirm this semantic solvency theory?
Not yet. But I mean, you know, it's always possible. But this criteria is that it's based on sort of a logical intuition. Is that we can explain the adverb and why that makes the adjective then suddenly acceptable. So something's being increased over semantic content, semantic weight, and it's highly unlikely that you have a totally different mechanism operating at the same time in other cases as this idea of permanency. So what I'm doing is taking the bit that we can see works and saying, well, the way that we apply that to the bit that we can see obviously doesn't work. And does that help? And I think it does help. I think it provides a way forward. But I still don't know which is wrong. But I get it. But I still don't quite know how to sort of convey it to the student in simple language. But I think that's, as I'm a classroom teacher, so I really do expect the grammarians to do their job. I need them to do their job so I can do mine.
Could it be that they mistakenly think that the conducted experiment, because it sounds shorter than the experiment which we conducted, they might think that that necessarily means that it sounds more professional somehow, even though it's wrong.
That's very likely.
Yeah.
And in Germany, it could well be.
Yeah.
You know, preposing the last participle in German is usually a feature of higher style. So they're actually thinking they're writing good English. They're quite shocked when I tell them that you can't say that. But of course they're right to be shocked because nobody's ever told them not to do it. And why? And I'm shocked because, you know, four of our best grammarians obviously just failed to get hold of the problem. It's really almost embarrassing how poor their argumentation is. It's like they got up in the morning to the continental breakfast and all of it.
Thank you very much once again, and I think that this was a very thought-provoking presentation. There were lots of questions, so Peter, thank you very much.
Thank you too, and it was such a delight to have a live audience after looking at the screen for 4 months. Thank you.